Hello there. What's going on, everyone? We're doing some live streaming this evening. Boy, we've had an incredible week. Really, really crazy week. And so much to talk about. A ton of Legion news, a ton of X-Wing news, lots of X-Wing news. Armada actually had news. And a whole new game gets announced. Outer Rim. Multiplayer game. It's hard to even, realize just how awesome that is. And, so, yeah, I'm going to give it a minute before, let some people kind of join in. But yeah, so this is just a really exciting time. Outer Rim, probably the first thing I want to talk about tonight, because that's the most recent news. Looks really cool. Basically, flying around the outer edge of the galaxy, picking your pilot, buying ships. It looks like there's multiple ways you can go. You can go like bounty hunting, you can go smuggling, drop off and deliver. Some people have equated it to Firefly, and I can definitely see a certain Firefly aspect going on there, but I think the different thing there is that Firefly is like everybody on the same ship, and this would, I'm guessing, I haven't played the Firefly board game. I've played other games that kind of follow that mentality, but I don't think in Firefly everybody gets their own ship. I think you're working together in Firefly, and in this, everybody's working independently, or in some cases even against each other. So, yeah, but now it looks cool, and I like that it's truly multiplayer, because you can actually have three people playing this game all against each other at the same time. Like, that's the problem with all of these games is you show up and you're like, all right, let's do a get together, and there's an odd number of people. So like, what do you do? And that's just great about this. Or if you got 4 people. Sometimes, like, I'm not always the biggest fan of team games, because I like to have a big army, and I want to go up against another big army. And then when it's a team game, I'm like, well, I think we should do this. And then others like, well, I think we should do this. I'm like, all right, fine. So it's like cutting my experience of controlling my army in half, because I have to share decision making. That's not always the case, but that is sometimes the case. Sometimes the collaboration is fun, but not always. So, yeah, that's about it. Let's see what else has been going on. So X-Wing, we got a preview of the Clone Wars starter, and we also got a preview of Wave 4. So that was exciting. The B-Wings definitely my favorite thing. So out of that, just because B-Wings are awesome. But the Resistance transport was actually a big surprise. I saw some people say on the official forums, who could have predicted that? I'm like, I did. Let's see. We got a couple of questions already. Can I ask an X-Wing question? The answer to that is yes. But that wasn't actually a real question. In Firefly, every player does have their own ship and builds their own crew. Okay, well, I stand corrected. I've played games similar to that actually resemble the show, because you would think that Firefly would be a cooperative game. I would have thought that. Why was the live stream suggested to me? I'm not even subbed to this channel and never seen it before in my life, says Aries. Well, welcome. Glad to have you here. You got a notification. Well, yeah, we do a lot of different stuff here. Star Wars gaming, Star Wars tabletop news, show reviews, news. Actually, there's a new episode of Resistance out today, and Clone Wars is coming back. I'm doing a lightsaber giveaway right now too, so that's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, YouTube is pointing you here. What do I think the new Auto Blaster upgrade will do? No idea. Let's see, and there's another question. Are you a nerd? I think so. I think I wear that tag pretty proudly. So something else that is coming up that was pretty cool. Oh yeah, is Mel Miniatures kind of showed off something pretty cool today. He's working on that is just went up. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. General Grievous is asking, what was your favorite home one title? What would be your favorite home one title in Armada? Well, the home one is a title, so I think you mean what's my favorite MC80 title, and that's like at least right now it's the home one. So the home one is my favorite home one title. That does the most, especially with 1,200 point battles coming up. It's going to be incredibly useful. What would you want the Venator class cruiser in Armada as a gray Imperial ship or an old refitted Republic Rebel ship? Well, the question is a little, because there's a difference between a Republic and a Rebel ship. I would want it in an old gray Imperial ship for the early days of the Empire, but I would also want it as a red Republic ship for the Republic, because I want the Clone Wars in Armada. I don't want the Rebels to use the Venator at all. I don't think that makes sense. I want the Venator. I would rather have Clone Wars factions than get the Venator as Empire, but I'd rather have both. It makes sense for it to be both. But yeah, Republic color Venator would work good, but if it came out for the Rebels, that would make me feel sad, because that would make me think they weren't planning on doing the Republic. Why am I seeing a bunch of thank yous for your service? I don't know if you're thanking me, but you're welcome. But I was in the Army. If you're asking me, or I don't know if you guys are asking somebody else in chat, because I don't think I mentioned anything about them. But yeah, thank you. What's the next thing coming to Armada, do you think? Do you think it will be the Liberator? I'm hoping it's I'm hoping we get the things from the Rebels finale, the basically the Dreadnought, but it's an assault ship. I need to even look up the name of but basically that, some medium ships, and I would love for it to be dual faction usable. I wouldn't mind some more EU stuff. The Rebels need stuff. The Starhawk is the biggest thing. Definitely want to see the Starhawk, and Venator would definitely be good. I mean, I've done a lot of predictions for Armada. A lot of them have been pretty spot on, but there's still a lot of stuff in my last prediction video that's still accurate. What would be your favorite home one title in Armada? I already said it's the home one. That question doesn't make sense, because the home one is a title. If you're asking what would be my favorite MC80 title, it would be the home one. Yes. Thank you for your service to the Old Republic. Thank you. Yes. Robert Kelso, also thank you for your service as the Chief of Medicine, because Scrubs was a good show. I want to show you guys. I want to show you guys the stuff that Mel Miniatures is working on. So, look at this. He tweeted this today for Armada. It's the Fondor shipyards. So if you played Battlefront 2, this is this is that level, that space level with the Fondor shipyards, and he's sculpted this thing with incredible detail. It's like, and you can fly, in the game in Battlefront 2, you can fly like through all of this. You come out right there at the end of this, and you've got all these little interior, like that's like the entry place you can go in. There's like turbo lasers throughout this whole setup. You've got it's really detailed underneath as well. Looks just super cool. Super cool. It's incredibly expensive too. It's over $300. It's like $320 for this, and that's just 1/3. There's a smaller one available, and it uses an ISD as comparison to it. And so that's this model right here that you're looking at. So that means this thing would be bigger. It'd be real big. It'd be real big to get, because you have to get 3 of them to build the whole station, right? To do the full circular station. So you're looking at $1,000 for something like that. that's pretty insane, you know. Yeah. So $1,000 for a Fondor station, and I'm like, I can't do it. You know, like I've had people on Twitter being like, "Oh, who's gonna be the first person to buy all three and put them together?" I'm like, I would love to do that. I can't get one and use mirrors. That'd be funny. But that would be amazing to do, like a really epic battle with, especially with 1,200 point battles coming now and the Superstar Destroyer coming. That would be, if you had all three together, I think it would be a bigger presence than the Superstar Destroyer on the table. It'd be huge. The problem you run into is you're spending $1,000 on something that's about the same size as a $200 ship. You know, so it's, yeah, I can't do it. Because it's only, what, like, going to be that much more than an ISD. It looks like it's going to come from the tip, because it only goes about like an extra 50%. So maybe to here, and then, you know, like, I don't think it's going to be that big, you know. So the only way I could do that, something like that, is maybe by adding some new pledge levels on Patreon and doing like a special kind of fundraiser for it, or I could do a GoFundMe for a Fondor shipyard, because that's going to work. I think GoFundMe needs to rebrand itself as healthcare. Yeah, well, my family, my wife's not going to let me do that. But if you've got any ideas on things that like would be good patron levels or something like that, I could probably see maybe doing some kind of crowdfunding thing, like, hey, temporary Patreon levels, you know, I don't know, we'll make a custom officer for your name and do it in the battle report if you pledge this much, or be ridiculous. Trying to raise $1,000 for something like this. It'd be funny. All right, so yes, I saw something about the release date of Wave 3 for X-Wing. I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. I think it'll be either later February or early March. That sounds about right to me. Another thing that's shipping right now is Legion's Jyn Erso and Pathfinders. They have changed their status. They're shipping now, so those will probably be a week from Thursday, I'm guessing. So we should have those in a week or two, right in mid-February. That'll be awesome. I'm looking forward to getting those. But what that means is next month, if the pattern holds true, that means in March we're going to get Death Troopers and Director Krennic. So that sounds cool. Clone Wars Legion predictions. We are probably going to get some news for the Clone Wars in Legion probably in, I'm going to guess, April. I feel like they've been giving us so much Legion news. It's like, it's crazy. I think by April we'll see an official announcement. Just kind of throwing that out. That just feels right. I don't have any hard reasons to think that. But, yeah, I think, because, I mean, if X-Wing's Clone Wars wave comes out in March, then that gives everybody time for the hype for that to kind of work itself out. And then in April they could start a new hype train for Clone Wars and not step on X-Wing's toes. That's kind of what I think. And I'm hoping the Clone Wars rollout goes really, really well, because if it does well, then there was always that chance they'll do it for Armada. Also, there's that chance that they'll do it for other board games too. Because, so, you know, like they announced Outer Rim, right? Maybe they'll do a Clone Wars game. That could be kind of cool. Favorite non-miniature Fantasy Flight game? Gosh, do I have any Fantasy Flight games that are non-miniatures? I don't know if I have any. I don't know if I've ever played a game from Fantasy Flight that doesn't have miniatures. Let's see. I'm going to actually check, because, I mean, I guess technically Keyforge, I like Keyforge. Keyforge is good. But I've got to go. Let's see. What else do they have? They have Game of Thrones. I haven't played any of the Game of Thrones things. I want to play the Game of Thrones board game. They have the Android license. I never played that. Terranoth, I've played Rune Wars. That was a miniatures game. L5R, haven't played L5R. Have I played Star Wars Rebellion? Yes, and it has miniatures. Star Wars Destiny does not have minis, but I don't like Star Wars Destiny. Not very much. Let's see, all of their Star Wars stuff. Well, I guess the RPG, the Star Wars, like Edge of the Empire or Age of Rebellion and Force and Destiny, those are RPGs. Technically, they don't have miniatures, but you can use miniatures with them. Do I like Rebellion? Rebellion may be the greatest board game of all time. So yes, I absolutely love Rebellion. Let's see. I haven't played Cosmic Encounter yet. That one's really popular. I need to play that one. Hopefully so Dice Tower in July here in Orlando. If you're going to be there, I'm going to try and get a lot of games that I have not played yet. I have played Civilization: A New Dawn. That one is pretty cool, pretty good board game. Draken. I have Draken. I'm looking through FFG's list of different games that they have. I have Draken, and Draken is good, but it does have miniatures, although it's not a miniatures game. Wiz War. I really love Wiz War, but that one also has miniatures as well. So, just what are your thoughts on using count as in Armada? I don't know what that means. FFG Battlestar Galactica game, that was actually a really good game. That was a really good game. I enjoyed that. Funny story. This will be funnier if you're familiar with the way Battlestar Galactica plays. So I'll tell just a little bit about it. Battlestar Galactica, the fantasy flight game, was effectively a co-op where you're trying to make sure the human race survives. And the Cylons are basically an AI that will be attacking the ship and causing things to break down. And different people have different skill sets, and different people will repair the ship and try to help us make different jumps and get closer and closer to find Earth. Well, one of the things that is going to happen is there can be Cylons on the ship. So everybody gets a card, and it'll tell you if you're a human or if you're a Cylon. And there are two halves to the game. During the first half of the game, you're not guaranteed to have a Cylon in the first half, but in the second half of the game, you're guaranteed to have at least one Cylon, and sometimes you'll have two. Or it may be that you're guaranteed to have two by the second half. But it's possible to have one, because I think there's two Cylon cards that get shuffled out, and you only get one card in the first half, and you get a second card in the second half. So it's possible that you might start out human and end up Cylon, and then the Cylons have a different win condition, and they're going to sabotage the ship. So basically the game plays really well because people grow more and more suspicious as the game goes on, especially in the second half. And you may find out that you get your second card and oh, I was a Cylon the whole time and I didn't even know it, basically according to the story. So you can become a Cylon. It's very, very interesting. And we played a game one time. A friend of mine had every expansion for the game and had all the cards. And people were really, really, really suspicious. We were playing everything we could to try to find out who was Cylons. And we ended up losing because we were so suspicious. We were fighting with each other. We couldn't agree on who was the Cylon, who wasn't the Cylon. Turned out there were no Cylons. They misdealt the cards, and there were no Cylon cards at all. And we were laughing our butts off. And so it was our own paranoia that killed us. Absolutely hilarious. And that wouldn't have happened if there was the possibility that there were no Cylons. But since the rules stated there had to be Cylons, we just assumed that was the case. So it ended up being really, really funny. But yeah, so that does happen from time to time. Funny things like that. Let's see, XCOM. I don't think that's really a miniatures game. I played that. That was pretty interesting. Extrums. You know what? One of the worst FFG games I played was Discover, Lands Unknown. did not like that game at all, and it was expensive too for being such a terrible game. It was like $60 or $75 or something like that, and I'm like, oh man, what a like. I played it was like this survival game, and we both won. And after we won, I was like, that was terrible. Like I feel bad. Like I would have rather died, you know, than I would have rather failed than completed that game. Fallout was also kind of, I didn't like Fallout very much. But yes, so yeah, death by paranoia. That will definitely happen. Let's see what other questions we got. But yeah, what do you think? Let me know what you think of the Fondor shipyards. Do you think that's would be something like I know at least some of you guys. I'm probably make a whole video kind of talking about it, a little bit more dedicated to that, because that would be really cool to get the three and put them together and have a huge stage. I want to show you something though, because like based on this picture, if you've already seen, I have the Deep Space Nine from Deep Cut Studios, right? And I'm thinking to myself, it's probably not that much bigger than this. You know, when I put this up to it, it'll, you know, like, I don't think it's good, because this all goes all the way to the center. You know, so I imagine it's probably going to be about this size with a Star Destroyer docked about out here. So I figured it'll be bigger than this, but not that much bigger. And since it's got a hole in the center, you know. But this was only $50. And that's going to be 1,000. Granted, that's going to actually be, you know, a canon Star Wars shipyard. But boy, there'd be some really cool battle reports that could be done with something like that. Would be really, really, really cool. It would rock as a centerpiece. I think you'd need it. So one of the things I would have to do. So I'm getting a gaming table too, like a nice 6x4 gaming table, and I think to do like custom 6x4 missions, it would look really cool for that. But yeah, it'd have to be some kind of custom objective, custom scenario. Might be really good for true multiplayer games too. Like I was thinking something along the lines of everybody gets 200 points, and you bring, you know, you can bring at maximum 2 ships. Or a maximum maybe 2 squadrons per ship, or something like that, or 1 ship and 4 squadrons, or something, you know, something like that. And then so everybody brings basically a smaller force, and then we kind of play King of the Hill, like whoever can get range 1 of the shipyards, you know. And another thing I wonder if and I need to probably ask Mel, is if this shipyards, what kind of stand does it come with? Does it come with a stand? Because I would be a real bummer to spend $1,000 on something and it just sits on the ground. Like it doesn't. How is it supported? You know. I need to see that. All right, but yeah. So let's see. Well, I'm gonna scroll up and start going through some of their questions because I probably missed a couple. Let's see. Looking through questions. A lot of questions about Rebellion. I think I kind of already answered a lot of those. What would you put in a squad with a Y-Wing, X-Wing, and U-Wing? Another X-Wing. X-Wing. What epic scales do you think we will see for Resistance, First Order, Old Republic, and Separatist? That's a good question. I don't know the names of all of the ships that they're going to use off the top of my head, but we do know from Star Wars Resistance that the Resistance is also still using old stuff. So you might see certain ships pull double duty. One of the things I think you may see is something like the Sea Rock for Scum, like maybe get double duty as you know, Separatist or something like that. I think you might see the CR-90 also get used for the Resistance. You know, they have CR-90s in the Resistance. So stuff like that is a possibility. The First Order seems to have a smaller capital ship that in theory could be used. That was in one of the, I think, the Poe Dameron comic books. So there's a lot of things like that that could use. I'm personally kind of hoping that the Super Star Destroyer does really well for Armada, And as a result, I'm hoping they make more really large-scale things because, heck, I love stuff like that. It makes great centerpieces, great background things, great awesome games, and for really, really big ships, I wouldn't even mind, like, have you heard of Hasbro? And they have this thing called HasLabs, and they had the Jabba's sail skiff barge thing where it was, they didn't have to worry about mass producing something, they just let people back it and order it directly from the company. I would like to see Fantasy Flight do something like that for those people who do want a, you know, a really, really expensive item, but they don't want to, you know, have it on retailers' shelves because maybe it would take up too much shelf space. So, like, if they did want to do a Death Star for Armada, probably a bad example, right? But if they did want it, like the Superstar Destroyer, in theory, there could have been a deluxe Superstar Destroyer that was even twice as big that they crowdfund, or they do something like Kickstarter. I mean, maybe they'll just use their own platform so they don't have to like give away a whole bunch of money. And, you know, but like anytime they're going to launch an expansion that's going to be like $400 or $500 or more, they probably can't just afford to put that on retailers' shelves. So, you know, some kind of crowdfunding or pre-order only, you know, for something like that, I think would be really cool. I would love to see something like that. Because that would allow, like, if they wanted to do a Nebulon B, or, like, I don't think that a Star Destroyer for X-Wing is too much, but, you know, stuff like that. Have I ever seen Red Letter Media? Yes, they had the really funny reviews, I think, of, like, the prequel trilogy. I thought they were a little harsh, but as far as comedy goes, it was brilliant. If I was using them as a honest, serious review, I would take issue with some of it, but I can separate the comedy from the serious review, and it's very, very good. At least it was when I had seen them. Let's see. Been watching since 8,000 subs. Thanks. Thank you for sticking with me. Heroes versus villains events with Legion. Something like that would be really cool. What I want to do is similar to what I was talking about with Armada. I want to have a format like a King of the Hill format for Legion, where you get, I was working on the point values a little bit. I believe you get 250 points. And you can have 2 units. At least one of them has to be a single miniature. And you basically go. And so the winner you get victory points if you control the center uncontested. And the center would be probably about a circle about this big, and we put it in the middle of the map. And it can play like up to 8 people. I think something like that would be really fun. Have to work it out a little bit, but I think something like that would be really, really fun, and it would get, you know, it would get a lot of those. It would feel like epic duels, I think, and we're getting very close to where we can actually do that. Have I seen the Star Wars Theory Vader short? Yes, I have. It was amazing. Star Wars Theory actually has commented on a couple of my videos too. So the lightsaber reviews. Because I did the Mace Windu, like after he did that one, the Mace Windu saber came out, and that one it looks amazing too. So and I think that was kind of what drew him in, because it was Mace Windu stuff. So yeah, he left a comment on that one. I think in the Obi-Wan saber, so that was kind of cool. How do I feel about Palpatine in Legion? He's my favorite character, probably my favorite character in the entire game. I loved him. I think he's great. I think he's very, very great. I think he's fun. I think he's slow, and so you have to play him a certain way. But yeah, I like Palpatine. I like him a lot. I'll admit, I was surprised when they announced Palpatine. I'm like, so early? Shouldn't he have been like somebody that comes out like after like 3 years? And then you're like, oh, now they're bringing out the big guns. You know, so they brought him out pretty early. But he's still strong, and he's gonna stay strong, I think, for a long time. Could you fully explain to me what Legion is? Not in this broadcast. I got a video teaching how to play Legion. That's probably your best way to get introduced to the game. But just search for like Crabbok how to play and throw Legion in there. I think that's probably the best answer, the best way you can do that. It's basically like Legion or like Star Wars meets 40K, Warhammer 40K. Yeah. Let's see. Do I think they'll put the Night Sisters in Legion? Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. I think that's one of the things we need. I think we need more Force users and more Force powers. I want Kanan. Now that we know Sabine is coming, I'm really anxious to see Kanan and Ezra. I think the Rebels, we could use some more light side stuff. So Kanan and Ezra would be a great idea. But yeah, Night Sisters make a lot of sense. Darth Maul, when they do Clone Wars stuff, I want Darth Maul so bad. So, yeah. And Asajj Ventress as well, and Savage Opress. The worst names ever, but yeah, I think that Night Sisters make a lot of sense, and they can be a very different type of Force user because they probably won't have lightsabers. They have those bows that they shoot, So Night Sisters would be really cool. All right. When is the giveaway over for the lightsaber? The giveaway is running throughout this whole month. I will probably announce the winner early March, like the 1st or 2nd or so of March. So, yeah. So stay tuned. Can we turn lightsaber duels into a real professional duels? Oh, I think you mean duels into a professional sport with championship and like there is a lot of that, or almost that. There's a lot of clubs that do lightsaber dueling and they perform, and I don't know if it's a competitive event or if it's scripted or if it's in some cases a mixture of both. But I believe it's for the most part it's scripted. But it's very very cool, and like if you're interested in that, I think you should check it out. Like search for your local area and see where like lightsaber clubs are, because it's something really cool. Which interdictor do you prefer, combat or suppression? A while back when the interdictor was newer, I was really liking the combat, but since blue dice have gotten so much more, the suppression has really grown. The suppression was always the better one if you were going to use the experimental upgrades, but it's gotten just so much better since we've gotten heavy ion emplacements and disposable capacitors and things that really buff a medium ship, with blue dice. That the suppression is clearly the best ship. What really needs to happen is the interdictor needs a points reduction, so this way we can use like something like the combat retrofit at like 15 to 20 points cheaper and just use it as a medium ship to have it just do combat. But it's priced, basically it's priced in a way, like I would like to see an experimental retrofit with a points cost negative, like maybe a 10 point cost reduction. The problem is, if you do that, people would put, you'd put one on the suppression refit as well, and then still get all the other good stuff that it has. So, like, I don't know, maybe it needs an errata. Your how to play Legion video is the best how-to for Legion. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope so. I hope it is helpful. As someone who owns Descent, is Legion different enough to get? Very much so. Very much so. Descent is very similar to Imperial Assault. They're almost the same game. There are differences. I actually really like Descent, but there's differences. But theirs are very comparable. But Legion is different enough in that it's a tabletop skirmish game. You're building an army going up against somebody else's army, and you're using terrain, and the terrain actually matters, and that's one barrier to entry. If you don't have terrain, that might be a problem. But the thing is, you can just use books, you can use pots and pans, you can use all kinds of stuff that's going to block line of sight, and just build out this cool table and play on that. So there's a lot of differences between those two games. Let's see. I want General Kenobi. Me too. Me too. I do start all my videos off with that line he stole from me.
So, all right. Let's see. Suppression interdictor all the way. Yeah, I agree. I would love to be able to take the, you know, maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll start seeing some more red dice preference stuff. But as it stands right now, even because things like Krennic, and we're going to see things that kind of work better at long range. I just don't think we're going to get anything that makes the combat retrofit interdictor better. You're looking forward to hosting a 2,400 8-player game of Armada. Whether you have enough ships is the question. That makes sense. 2,400 point 8-player game. Do you mean 1,200 aside, or are you saying 2,400 aside? Because the problem is you're going to run out of room with that many points. You're not going to have room to put ships down, so you're going to have to come up with some different type of deployment area, and that's going to throw your objectives out of balance because they're geared for a certain play surface. So make sure if you're really going 2,400 points, be prepared for like an 8-hour game, maybe longer, because if you got 8 players, you're gonna have a lot of table talk. That is the thing. That's why I prefer, if you're gonna play really big games, have one person doing it, like a 1 versus 1. I know that that's harder to do because it means you have to have it basically put everything you have on the table and then borrow stuff from other people. But at least you only have one person making a decision. And I think that's one of the things that the fleet admiral is supposed to like kind of reduce playtime and reduce lag in the game. But yes, when am I thinking Legion Clone Wars? That one is already said. I think April they'll probably announce it. That's my guess. I am thinking by March we'll have Wave 3 for X-Wing, so then we'll have X-Wing's Wave 3 in hand. That'll get like a couple of weeks to settle down, and I think that's when they'll announce Legion for Clone Wars. I think they don't want those two both in development at the same time. I don't think they want the hype to overlap on those, and so they want, all right, now you've got this Clone Wars. Here comes that Clone. And if so, and if that happens, then I would wait until Legion finally comes out for Clone War, or Clone Wars finally comes out for Legion. Then maybe we'll see some more news, like maybe Clone Wars for Armada or something like that. What's better, Armada or X-Wing for newcomers? X-Wing right now. Even though Armada is, I think, better. I think if you're new right now, you're going to have a hard time getting product for Armada. Armada is not going to have a restock of certain important squadron packs until maybe spring. So for a new player, now granted, if you can pick up somebody's, if you find somebody who's selling their Armada stuff and they're selling their whole collection, jump all over that, because a lot of the old stuff is out of print. It's going to come back into print. It's just out for a few more months. So that's what makes it hard. Now, new players, they do have this hyperspace format. So there's for X-Wing, there's a new format that's kind of try to keep it so you don't have to go buy everything, and don't have, you can limit what you need to buy. They're trying to do a good job of making it to where the factions, you don't have to buy across factions. So they're kind of trying to keep your cost down in X-Wing. And that's kind of cool. But there's just been some errors and some missteps with the rules in X-Wing 2nd Edition. But I think X-Wing 2nd Edition is generally going to be new player friendly. The good thing is all of these communities for these games have really great people that are going to help you and be very welcoming. I haven't really run across a lot of jerks in any of these games, whether it's X-Wing, Armada, or Legion, or Imperial Assault, or any of those. So that's cool. I did do a video talking about what's new. It's called What's New in 2.0. But yeah, I talk about most of the changes. I haven't been playing a lot of 2.0, so I haven't really done that many X-Wing videos. I really am just staying up to date on like the newest stuff, and my X-Wing coverage has kind of gone down. I know once the Clone Wars comes out, I'm looking to play a lot more, and I will probably at that point start doing more. Like once Wave 3 comes out, I'll probably start doing a lot more X-Wing videos. And so I know a lot of you guys that subscribe are X-Wing players as well, and that's one of the things I get a lot is, we want more X-Wing like battle reports, we want more X-Wing content, and yeah, I definitely get that. Do I like X-Wing 2.0 better than 1.0? No. I liked 1.0 better. Even though, but to be fair, that was because I knew like almost all the upgrades like in the back of my head. And in 2.0, there's so many things where like if your brain is a computer, right, and you're like, oh, all right, fire control systems, I know what that does. No, it does something totally new now. I have to go look up every card. And so the 2.0 thing is very frustrating for me. It's like I almost wish they would have went with all new names for all the upgrades, because then at least it wouldn't cross signals. And that's just my old brain getting its signals crossed. You know. So yeah, I don't know if the Switch was worth it. I think the Switch was rushed. There's a lot of things that probably would have been done better, like X-Wing Wave 14 and the 2.0 cards in there, and all the misprints, and then the conversion kits missing things like target locks and shield tokens and that sort of stuff. I think that all of those little missteps, if they had given themselves like 2 more months, it could have probably been worked out, and you could have had a better 2.0 rollout. And those are things that have kind of soured me a little bit too. I don't like the idea of an app. I don't like looking at a card and not knowing what it does. Sometimes I like just sitting out in my garage with my cards and just looking at them. It doesn't tell me anything anymore. So now I have to go pull up an app. So I have to do all my building on my phone or on a web browser. I don't like that. I play tabletop games to get away from all of that technology, and so it's a real counterintuitive for me, and I hope they don't continue to use the app with all their other games. I understand the need for that flexibility if they want to keep the competitive side of X-Wing viable and everything. I just wish on the back of the card it told you at least the upgrades it had at launch. So this way, when the zombie apocalypse happens and then the internet goes down forever and we lose power, we can still play our games without having to just be like, oh, I don't know what any of this stuff does, So, your thoughts on the current state of Legion? Are you keen for Jin and Krennic? Yes, I think Legion's in a really good place right now. I think that Jin and the Pathfinders are going to be okay, but Krennic and the Death Troopers are going to be insane. I think the Death Troopers are probably going to be one of the best units we've ever seen, and then once they come out, nobody will have a list that doesn't have Death Troopers, and that might be problematic. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I might totally be wrong, but that's my prediction. I'm calling it now. I think when Death Troopers come out, everyone will run Death Troopers. I think Krennic's going to come out and it will work well with Death Troopers, and partially because of that, he'll probably be the most popular Imperial commander. And I think Jin and the Pathfinders are going to fall short of that. I think that their whole little ability of being able to deploy anywhere on the battlefield is going to get them in trouble. It's going to get them killed awfully quickly, because they're going to be like, oh, I'm deployed at the objective. Yeah, but you're also in range of all of my Death Troopers. Boom, 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 you're dead right away. So you start off without, with one less unit. Maybe. We'll see. Now, games like XCOM, I don't mind. I think it's part of the foundation of the game from the initial conception phase, and so that's fine, as long as it's some games and not all games. If we get some kind of electronic devices don't work anymore, well, I'm still going to have 95% of my games, right? Actually, I don't have XCOM, but Death Troopers are I'm guessing they're going to come out in March, because Jin and the Pathfinders are on the trucks now, so they're probably going to come out this Thursday or next Thursday. I'm guessing next Thursday, but we'll see. And so they've been doing, one release every month, and I think Krennic and the Death Troopers are next up in the slot. So, yeah, that should be next month. We'll see if I'm right. Yep. And I get that the app does give them data to and the app for X-Wing 2.0, it gives them the ability to make adjustments. And if you want a game to be successful on a competitive level, I understand. You need something like that. You need something like a hyperspace format. And that's fine. I just wish they had it on the back. I wish, the front of the card without the points and without the upgrades, that was the hyperspace side, and I wish on the back of the card was the extended side. So if you just like 1.0 versus 2.0. So I wish I could look at the extended side and say, oh, okay. So if I just want to look through my cards and just make a list for casual play, boom. Oh, is it tournament time? Oh, okay, we'll flip it over. Let's use the app. Oh, we lost our turret on the Y-Wings, so we can't use ion cannons anymore. Okay, you know, something like that. But, you know, it is what it is. It would make it easier also. And one of the problems is it's hard to get hyped about stuff. Like when they give us a preview, like, oh, look at all these previews we've gotten lately. Look at the Wave 4 preview. Oh, look at all these cards. Cool. I have no idea if that's good or if it's bad. I have no idea what upgrades it can take. I have no idea what it costs. I have no idea how many of those I can fit into a list. So it really gives you very little information. And so it really kind of changes the spoilers. Like I don't even know what to feel about that. And so we don't even know if something's going to be good until like the day it comes out. So that changes how many you want to pre-order, right? Like TIE fighters, you know, you can fit 7 in a thing. So like if a new TIE fighter's coming out, you're probably going to pre-order a couple of them in theory, right? Something like that. But like a new let's say the V19 Torrent. I don't know how many of those I'm going to be able to fit into a list. I don't know if I should pre-order 2 of the things and then it comes out they're 120 points each. I know they're not going to be 120 points each. But my point is you don't know how expensive they are. You don't know how many you might want. It helps to be able to pre-build and do some theory crafting ahead of time. It helps you know what to pre-order. That's that's one of those gripes I really have with the way that 2.0 is. All right. For X-Wing, is it still recommended that you get the core set along with the Republic set if you just want to play Republic? Yes. You're going to need a core set. Because you're going to need the things that come in there. You're going to need dice, you're going to need a damage deck, you're going to need your templates and all of that stuff. The Republic set is going to basically be your starter for the ships, but you're going to need everything that comes in the core set. No matter which faction you play, you have to buy that core set. Ewoks in Legion. I actually wouldn't mind having Ewoks in Legion. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be really fun to get the little hang glider as a support, you know, have him drop him rocks and stuff like that. It'd be kind of cool if the Ewoks had an ability to take over an ATST also. That would be funny. No, the reason I would like Ewoks, though, is because you've got Chewbacca, you've got Wookiees. I want Ewoks as core. I want to be able to do like a full-blown fuzzball kind of unit. Probably Han as my commander, though. Han and Chewie and Wookiees and Ewoks. It would be fun. All right. Let's see. Let's see what else do we got. What else do we got? Pathfinders are going to upbid the importance of objective choosing. That is possible. It is possible. I think, but the thing is, sometimes it depends on what objectives come out. I don't know if it's going to change objective initiative bids that much, because first off, it depends what objectives you bring, and then you've got to hope that one golden objective ends up on the far right side for you to lock it in. Otherwise, the other player can just be like, nope, we're going to just, any player you are can. So there's a slim chance of getting like that objective that works perfectly with the Pathfinder build. What would you think about Sand People in Legion? So Sand People are an interesting, rather than just Sand People in general, I'll expand that to include anybody that's like non-aligned. So Jawas, Sand People, Rancors. I would love to see neutral units in Legion, but I don't know if they would be something like that you can equip in any army and you have to pay a premium, or there's something that can just be deployed on the army and they attack everybody. Like Sand People. I think it would be really cool if you could have units on the battlefield that were effectively like AI or almost like hazards, like a condition, a battlefield condition card, and it's called Sand People Infestation, right? And what happens is each player
drops a beacon, or basically deploys a group of 3 sand people on the board, and they attack everybody. They have Overwatch or standby. They have a standby token, so anytime somebody moves within the range, they shoot at them, almost like mines, right? That would be cool. But they're treated like a person. That would be fun. That would be really fun. Rancors, same thing. You know, Jawas. I would love to see a whole bunch of neutral, openly hostile. And the things, you could also work it to be the other way around. You could have neutral units that weren't hostile, but that would maybe offer a service. So maybe you would get Hondo Anaka and a unit of his pirates, and at the cost, you have to hire them, and the cost of hiring them is you give your opponent a victory point, and now all of a sudden Hondo comes and works for you. Whoever gets to him first hires him. Like, that would be something really cool. So, like, you better do really good with them, because you just gave your opponent a huge advantage by spending all that money, right? So I would love to see something like that. Man, that's a good idea. Oh. Do you think the new Imperial hover tank will be viable? I don't think it's a hover tank. I think it's got track. I don't think it's a hover tank. The weak sides are kind of scary. I think it's going to do a couple of things, though. I think the tank is going to be I think it'll be useful to get snowtroopers into the middle of the battlefield a little bit easier. I think its larger base is going to make up for its slower speed. And I think it will die. But because vehicles don't take control of objectives, if your opponent wants to spend a couple of turns shooting at it, that means they're not shooting at your troopers, so maybe that could be viewed as a positive. That's an idea. Would Anakin get some kind of penalty if you play him on a sand map? Yeah, I think so. I think you have to put sand on his base, because it gets everywhere. You have to put it under his base. Suicide bombers. In Empire at War, they have suicide bombers. Well, I think you already have that with your saboteurs, because they can detonate a bomb after an action, so they can move, and then as an action, arm a charge, and as soon as they arm that charge, they can detonate it immediately, so that you kind of already have suicide bombers for both factions. Yeah. Do you think Sabine's command card teased Mandalorians for Rebels? I think it's a possibility. I mean, you could have them for either faction. Why do humans always do the most important stuff in the Star Wars galaxy? I think budget is definitely an aspect of why you see so many more humans that are doing important things, at least in live action. Now, in animation, it's much easier for aliens to be central characters. Like, look at Star Wars Rebels, Hera and Zeb, right? You'd have a hard time doing a Star Wars Rebels live action movie because of Zeb, right? He's going to obviously increase the budget. Whereas people like Kanan and Ezra would be a lot easier. Kanan, you just put a mask on him, you know. But yeah, Ezra would be harder. Let's see. Rather have an AT-AT instead of a tank. I would too. The partisans would be great. So I thought of a Saw Gerrera card, and it would also involve victory tokens, and he would have some type of ability similar to like kind of like Boba Fett, right? Has the whole bounty which gives you a victory token. Saw would do, because he's seen as, and he'd be a commander. He would have the ability to play dirty, and he would do some kind of terrorist. He would play like a terrorist tactics, and basically he could completely wipe out. Like, he could deal like just a huge attack on an enemy unit. Let's say he'd have like maybe his 1 pip. At the end of his activation, he could perform this following attack on a unit in range 1 to 3, and it's something like 7 red dice, right? A 7 red die attack
on an enemy unit. And maybe that's too, again, it's maybe too strong. It would need to be tested and balanced. Maybe 6. A red die, 1 to 3. And I'd even give it surge to crit. And it'd have blast. Basically, it's like an explosive. But by doing so, he would also give the opponent a victory token. And the idea of that is that Saw Gerrera's tactics were like picked up like it was there were civilians killed in the blast or something like that. So while it's he can get the job done, but at the cost of public opinion, right? So that's why your opponent may lose units, but that's what I would like to see, like a Saw Gerrera type of character. And then he would have cards kind of like Darth Vader's, like you can issue somebody an order, they get an extra action, but they take a damage. Like he's just very aggressive, and he doesn't care about his people as much as he cares about hurting the Empire. So he'd be a very aggressive and character, but also very risky. So something like that I would like to see. Will I be playing Legion anytime soon? I sometimes play Legion on Sundays. I've just been busy the past couple of weekends. So, yeah. Do I think any new Squadron packs will come out for Star Wars Armada? I think that's possible. I hope they are limited with it, though. If they do any more packs, I wouldn't mind seeing like a multi-pack like the Rogues and Villains. I wouldn't mind seeing a pack like that that has a little bit for both factions, so it's... but it's cheap. This way we just don't get overwhelmed, because squadrons already take up so much time, and they're so they're kind of a problem for the game because they slow down the game. They are out of print right now, so people can't get important squadrons. And I like Armada better when it's more about the ships versus ships. And you know, maybe it's the point limit for squadrons is just too high. Like maybe it should be maybe it should be a max of 100 points of squadrons. It's just that it becomes such a gambling. Like you run a squadronless list and you go up against a bomber, a heavy bomber list, and you toast, and I don't know. It's kind of got mixed emotions on squadrons. Yeah. I like that you live ketchup chips. I don't know what that means. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to be wrapping it up here momentarily, but yeah, dude, the Fondor shipyards look really cool for Armada, though. But if you're watching this after the fact, let me know what you think. Is this something that you would want to see me get at the cost of $1,000 to put the whole Fondor shipyard together? Like that's crazy. I don't know. I'd have to do some extra fundraising. And if you do want to help me out, stay tuned, because I may look at adding some new tiers on Patreon to kind of help make that possible. And if you think of any really good rewards that would be worth like a $100 pledge or a $500 pledge or something like that, we'll figure it out. All right, guys. Well, that's all I got for you today. I'm going to let you guys go, and I want to thank you all so much for hanging out with me tonight. I hope you guys have a good week. I'm wondering if, with all the news they dropped on us this week, what's in store next week. Do I play Battlefront? I do. I haven't played it in a long time though, because it's kind of gotten stale for me. All right, guys. Have a wonderful day, and stay tuned for more cool stuff. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Have a great day.